All right, so family, listen. In 2016, y'all all challenged me. And so I'm here coming right back at you. What am I talking about? First, let me start with my wife and Reese and Kels, and my children and Reese and Kels' children. My wife and my children, Reese and Kels and her children, and Dollar Bill and Jen and their children. And then everybody else who heard what was happening to me on the front lines. So those were the families represented on the front lines when I almost lost my life, August the 19th, 2016. So me, Bill, Reese, we at the shop. Bill and Reese make the decision just by looking at me, yo, take that nigga to the hospital. That's what Dollar Bill said. I was trying to be cool. I was trying, yo, I don't think I'm good. Under the Dollar Bill, like, yo, you look that little bro, take that nigga to the hospital. So that was decision number one. And the beautiful thing about our family is there's a there's a seniority, and there's a pecking order. And we've been trained a certain type of way. So once big bro speak, that's it. I could say, yo, I'm good, da 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 da. I could try and I gave up trying once big bro, because I was hitting Reese with the I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And Reese is little bro. To me, he's little bro. So little bro wanted to probably wanted to go to the hospital, but me being me, like, yo, I'm good, yo. So he like, yo, you sure? And I hit him with the yo, I'm good again. He like, yo, let me go above this nigga. He went and got big bro. Big bro come out there. He like, yo, come look at Damon, man. Come look at Damon, yo. Big bro walk out the door. He ain't out the door 2 minutes. He like, yo, what's good? I'm sweating head to toe. I'm still talking like, yo, I'm good. I just stumbled a little something. He looked at Reese. He said, man, take that man to the hospital and walk back in the shop. Reese, it was over with. Once Bill had spoke, Reese wasn't trying to hit like get in the car, yo. You heard what he said. Get in the car. So first of all, to y'all out there who might hear this story, this comes from mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles, grandmothers, great aunts, great uncles, cousins, older cousins, all moving like one. And because they moved like that, we move like we move. All right. That's fundamentals. So the one problem that we've had as a family is we haven't a yeah, I really think y'all think that y'all common. That's the first thing I'm gonna say to all four sides of my family. I think y'all common. That's number one. And we love our people so much. I know you love being around our peoples and all that, but when you got the ability to take your people to the whole nother level, which is what my mom's thing was, it is a waste not to go to the next level when you have the ability to go to the next level. When you do that in every other phase of your life, To settle when you can go to a whole nother level, that's wasteful. And that's ungrateful to the God who gave you the ability to go to the next level. All right. So what you have, first thing I want you to know, what you have is special. It's renowned supernatural. That's what the definition of it is. Renowned supernatural. Okay. When they tried to create something that could compete with renowned supernatural, they created a Hall of Fame. They create Washington, D.C. Museum of Black History, fake Black history. So if the imposters have the sense enough to elevate the individuals that can't hold a candle to the individuals that raised us, and my challenge for y'all here is we put together a system that my mom gave us based around the annual movements that our family used to do all the time. And based off, I'm going to show you the biblical movements that the height of David and Bathsheba's reign mirror the same exact things that my mom was trying to do. I'm going to show you the 4 key components to this entity that we created. And all it is a court. All right. All it is a court. Royals have a court where all of the families that are a part of the royal family. So take, for instance, Dollar Bill in the shop. Dollar Bill in the shop, you got Rudy, you got Grape, you got all of the individuals from the shop. Outside of the shop, you got Baller. Everybody knows who's the family connected to Dollar Bill. And then Vince got a whole nother family. And so royal courts were where the families could come together in unofficial gatherings. So the British, they have something called Wimbledon. Well, all of the individuals who were involved in running the kingdom, when they would let their hair down, they would come together in events. And it was only those who were a part of the royal court who would come to the royal events. And all throughout the kingdom, they had lower and lower levels where individuals would go to these places and be entertained, but you had to be a part of the royal court to come to the royal events. They would have jousting events, and they would have gladiator events, and they would have Wimbledon tennis games, and they would have dances, and they would have feasts, and they would have plays. Shakespeare wrote plays for the royal court. All of England didn't come. Queen Elizabeth I, King James, and their royal court would go to a specific theater for the royals, and they would watch the Shakespeare plays. And then Shakespeare would have other apprentices who would then make it for Broadway and Hollywood and the hood and the common people, all the way down to the bars and the saloons and the prostitute whorehouses or whatever. You had levels, but the royal court was the highest level. And our problem is now, instead of having a royal court around our family, we go to universities. And then we're at the bottom rung of Yale's Royal Court. We're at the bottom rung of Harvard, of in Michigan States. You're the bottom rung because you trying to fit into somebody else's court. When they sacrificed everything they could so that we could walk around the streets that we walked around the way we did. This is my mother's obituary. This is my mother's queenawary. Omnipotent queenawary. I'll never use that word. So I told my cousin Shay and my cousin Reese and Kels I had a business plan. So listen, 2015, so 1999, grandma passed away. My oldest daughter, Deja, is born. I select my daughter's name. I tell my mom what my daughter, so each one of my children are taken through an anointing and a dedication. I understand my father's a priest. My mom and my father, they joined a priesthood, just like David and Bathsheba. My mom's educational background is early childhood development, but she is the granddaughter of John O. Wilson, Gertrude Wilson, the prophet Philip, the same Philip who fed the 5,000, who the Son of God asked Philip directly. He said, "You give them to eat." The same Philip that the Son of God said, "Yo, go and baptize the Ethiopian eunuch who's looking for that which I gave you when we fed the 5,000. So when he goes back to the Queen of Sheba, my people, understand Jesus is telling the whole world. This one my mom took me to from age newborn to age 12. These are the queens of earth. The Queen of Sheba will judge this final generation. So go and make sure that the Queen of Sheba know that the Messiah and the birthright and the first fruit blessing is here. And that St. Philip that our family church was built on. So my mom was coming up through that, and when my father goes to the ministry, it's my mom who is drawing the connections to all of this. It's my mom who takes my Aunt Julie and she shows me my Aunt Julie and her at her wedding day, and she tells me about my cousin Mathel, and she explains what a godson and what a birthright is, and what me being a first fruit blessing, and him being a first fruit. The first son is the first fruit blessing. And my grandfather Frank E. Leggett is the only male of all females in his family. So my mom trying to get me to understand, Mathel had brothers, and Uncle Billy got another brother. Uncle Billy got another brother. So the Hunters have multiple lines that they could produce heirs. But my grandfather, if my dad didn't get it right and I didn't get it right, the Leggett line stops. If we don't enter into the priesthood and continue to anoint priests, the Leggett line of priests stops. My Uncle Reggie don't have no children. Can't have no children. My dad had me, my mom letting me know, bro, son. And this is a covenant of wealth. A good man leaveth wealth to his children's children. And it says, every good and perfect gift has come down from above, from the Father of lights. So these are Hollywood stars. This is a Hollywood star search. Every good and perfect gift has come down from above. So when it says, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, so the Son of God was teaching everybody, listen, you could choose to claim the will of the Father on earth and reclaim your heritage as heir. So my daughter's name means the law of God is her inner beauty. The law of God is her inner beauty twice, a double portion. So there's a prophet by the name of Elisha. So his father was Elijah. Elijah is the prophet that the word of God says God sent a chariot to come and get him and take him to heaven. And when God was taking Elijah to heaven, he told the son, listen, because I am taking your father to be with me, I will answer whatever request you make of me. He said, give me a double portion of the Holy Spirit that my father had. The law of God is her inner beauty. Two witnesses. You got to have two witnesses for it to be valid. You got to play in the first half, and then you got to come out and play in the second half to win the Super Bowl. So my main man, Eric Thomas, I got a main man who we run with, who's a #1 motivational speaker in the world. #1 motivational speaker in the world. And if anybody ever says this man's name when it comes to speaking and motivational speaking, if you ever say this name, I will show you personally, any of you who ever disrespect our camp and acknowledge anybody else. That includes ET. That includes my man himself. We are in a league of our own. Dr. Martin Luther King told y'all that those peasants, these are the European peasants that Dr. Martin Luther King was talking about. One of the most famous clips that got Dr. Martin Luther King killed was, he said, we come to DC, we coming to get our check. Because y'all been taking money from us in taxes and everything. Y'all enslaved our ancestors. Then you let European peasants. Dr. Martin Luther King told y'all Europe was full of peasants. How are they the 1%? They was peasants over there, they was peasants over here. How did they go from being peasants over there to peasants over here? What is a peasant? A peasant is the slave in feudalism. What's feudalism? The monarchs, we don't have a monarch here. They got a monarchy. So the king and queen was tyrants. The peasants, his family, everybody who came over here from Europe came over as peasants. What does peasant mean? The monarchy took 70% of everything that the nation made. So if you lived on the land, you were a slave. They could not move around. This is why Europeans want to come and get citizenship in the United States of America, because they've been slaves their whole life. That's all they know. You couldn't move around because whatever crop you grew on your farm as a peasant, the king required 70% to feed his royal court. You couldn't take days off. You couldn't take vacations. Why? Because the king didn't have nobody else raising his food but the peasants. So if you didn't grow your corn, the king wouldn't have no corn. You ain't have no vacation days. You was a peasant. And then you had to go to the market. All you had was corn. 70% of your income goes to the king. Then you got to try and survive off of 30% to feed yourself and then buy the rest of the stuff that you need, clothes and whatever that you don't actually do. Some other peasant made the clothes, and 70% of their clothes went to clothe the people in the palace. So they had to live off 30%. That's why there was poverty all throughout Europe. Then they was always in war. So then when the other people invade and wipe out the crops and wipe out and raid your home and burn your home down, then you really a peasant because you don't even have no lands. Now you starving. This is Europe. And then what did they do? They jumped on boats. They came here. They registered in New York, and then the government from the 1700s to the 1900s gave these niggas money. Dr. Martin Luther King lays it out. He said first he gave them land grants to get land. Then he created land grant colleges. Then you created banks for them to provide low interest to no interest loans to mechanize the farm, meaning so they could buy tractors. They had no money. They created the credit system of the United States of America to give European peasants to build a life here that they never ever had. And what did they create? Peasants here who then would pay 70% of their income back to the government that gave them the land. There's no way they wouldn't pay taxes. Taxes doesn't apply to us. We're not European peasants that were indentured servants that owe a European nation. Taxes do not apply to me. Only slaves pay taxes. They ain't never give me nothing. They can't tax me. They not my crown. They're at war with me. Just like England was always at war with France, they have always been at war with us. And y'all claim them. The European nations have always been at war with each other. And for the first time when they crossed the ocean, they were unified and they've been at war with those of us who own this land. And when you acknowledge them, you acknowledge their courts, you the bottom rung, now you the peasant. We a standalone sovereign kingdom who is evicting the alien invaders. Because as long as individuals wanted to come here and share in the everlasting gospel, anybody was welcome. Ain't no Chinese welcome in the United States of America. You a communist. Ain't no British welcome here. You're a fascist. You're an atheist. Ain't no Hindus welcome here. All of these belief systems have been judged. We worship the creator of heaven and earth. We are his faithful servants. We don't acknowledge idolatry. We don't acknowledge sun gods. We are at war with anybody who worships Baal in any form, way, shape, or form. You are our enemy. There is no coexistence. There is no multiple paths. There is no other gods. There is nothing. This is the battle of Armageddon. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels. Every day on earth has been the battle of Armageddon. Every day on earth has been a spiritual war. Every day on earth, the dragon has been roaring, lion, seeking whom he may devour. And we have been hunting and harvesting the dragon and his children, period. So the payday is called plunder. So what do we do on the days where we're not engaged in active battle and war? You're supposed to be planting and harvesting. You have an economy. You're supposed to be preparing for the wedding feast. You're supposed to be marrying. Adam knew Eve and the two became one. You're supposed to be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it. So there are seasons. There are 4 seasons. There are 4 different harvests. Those who keep the commandments of God and are his faithful servants sow seed in each season and harvest in each season. And he said, the first fruits are mine. If you're not sowing, you won't have a harvest. If you don't have a harvest, you are an unfaithful servant, because he said, I require a return on my investment. So he said, just like they created banks for their peasants, he said, I created banks for my heirs. And in the door, I've given you a measure of talents. Your family. He said, the children are the kingdom. The children are the kingdom. The children are the heirs. The children are proof that you have been fruitful and multiply. And if you know how to present them back, and if you know how to enter into a harvest, sow seed and harvest, and if you don't know how, that's what these sites are for. So, Shay Lanice, Reese and Kells, this is a business plan. This is a business plan that I told you I'm going to send. All right. Revolving around 4 seasons and a harvest. So I'm going to prove that the business plan that I'm sending to you is going to prove that we're the chosen and these are the imposters. Now, this is a whole nother financial system. This is a whole nother financial system. And these people, just like this dude in motivational speaking, all of these people look at us and our system throughout history, and because our people aren't doing it, then they take bits and pieces and give our people bits and pieces, and then they make millions of dollars selling our people the same system that God gave our ancestors, that our ancestors have fumbled and turned over and lost. Then they line up and they go pay these people to give them our system. This is the same business plan I'm giving you. Listen, see this? Financial Peace, Dave Ramsey's. Financial Peace University. You see this? Financial Peace University. He's taking the same principles that I put in this business plan, taking out the real power that would give you generational wealth. And it gives you just enough to make you believe he's legitimate and come pay for it. And you'll never have the abundant life that the Most High God said, I came that you might have life and have it abundantly, pressed down, shaken together, running over. This is pressed down, shaken together, running over 4 different seasons of performance arts, finest arts. It's called The Distant Shore. It's our wedding party, our wedding band. So y'all know we all share wedding parties. We all was in Bill's wedding. We all was in Sean's wedding. We all was together in my wedding. We went out to Vegas where Reese and Kel was in Kel's wedding. Shay and Kenny got married there. We all were. So we already have the royal court system of David and Bathsheba. And David's royal court was around singing a song that no man could sing. David and a dude named Asaph were the greatest hip hop MCs next to Zipporah and Bathsheba. Zipporah was Moses' wife. Bathsheba was David's wife. You got Zipporah, Bathsheba, David, Asaph. Now, when you look at music history, remember, we're talking about the arts. The marital art of war is performance arts and fine arts. So God said, let us create Elohim, the divine, in our image, after our likeness, created he them. He said he's the bridegroom. The bridegroom says the wife and the bride, the Holy Spirit, wife and the bride says, come to the wedding party. That's in Revelation. In Genesis, the bridegroom says, let us make Elohim, our sons and daughters, in our image, after our likeness, created he them. That's the Alpha. The Omega, the Holy Spirit, wife and the bride say, come. Alpha and Omega. The Alpha, obedience coins is what we call it. In the beginning, A coins, AO coins, Alpha obedience coin. So the color that represents obedience is blue for the ocean. Land flowing with milk and honey, the ocean. Water of life flows from the throne of God. In between, underneath the roots of the tree of life, it says a river flows. So whenever you're obedient, the water of life flows through the lands and there's fruitfulness. Whenever there's disobedience, blood flows. It's the opposite. Drought, famine, death. The wages of sin is death. Water of life, obedience. And then the red for obedience is the oldest wine of the wedding feast. He turned the water into wine. So the blue of obedience in the hands of the masterpiece physician turns into the oldest wine at the wedding feast. So you have blue and red, right? But he told Saul, who was disobedient, he said it's better to obey than to sacrifice. So Saul was the opposite. And those who violate the covenant, like England, slavery, transatlantic slave trade, they had the red coats, so the blood, so that's why they have red, white, and blue. They had a army for the red, the Red Cross, an army for the white. There was a family in England, wore the roses, they wore the white rose. There's another family that wore the red rose. And then when they came together, they had an army called the Dragoons, the Dragons, the Dragon Blood, the blue. They call them the Blue Bloods, red, white, and blue. This is where you get Bloods and the Crips. Remember, the Bastards of the Party documentary. I'm gonna go to it. My main man Spider Lope, his partner, Cleabone Sloan, he passed away. So, in honor of my brother, he asked a question and died before he could complete the project. So we're gonna go to the beginning and we're gonna answer the question. What y'all gotta understand, the answers are always in the beginning. In the beginning. You can't be in the middle of history. You can't start it. You got to be in the beginning. This is why he said you must be born again. All right. So, in the beginning, AO coins. So, the Adam obedience coins, the Alpha and Omega coins. So, my sister Terry Leggett, Pine Forge Academy. And after she graduated, there was a class right after her, Brian Street, Katari Humphreys, Paul Washington, Mike Broyles. I call them the Four Horsemen. They were the seniors. Brian Street was the head RA. Mike Broyles was his assistant. I was an RA that year. The RAs, we the men who run the dorm. All right. And that year, Dean Thomas was still our dean there. Dean Thomas was still there. So the continuity of manhood was still in place. And they started a brotherhood where the intramurals of this AO coins comes from. So Terry goes down to Oakwood, and the gem that's blue is a sapphire. A gem that's blue is a sapphire, right? So the A stands for alpha, sigma psi, O, obedience or omega. So we created an intramural brotherhood and sisterhood at Pine Forge and at Oakwood around the color, the gemstone of the sapphire. The gemstone of the sapphire and the bright and shining light. It says, the word says, in the beginning was the word, let there be light. The light shined on. So the orange stands for the atom in the beginning, shine on light. He said, if your eye be single, then your whole body will be filled with light. So the orange is for the alpha in the beginning, shine on. And the O or the omega is for the obedience. So you got the alpha, sigma psi, omega. After Brian and them graduated, after the Four Horsemen graduated, we called the brethren and the sistren. So the next 2 years we was the brethren and the sistren, but we was also Alpha, Sigma, Psi, Omega. Alpha, Sigma, Psi, Omega is a gemstone. So we're going to upgrade our brothers and sisters in the streets. They use cotton against us. We don't use cotton cloth to identify. That's not our flag. That means nothing to us. That means everything to the British who enslaved our people. Red coats and blue coats. Remember, the Yankees are the ones who had breeding plantations in the North. Those blue coats, that's a sexual buck breaking. Just look at 50 Cent and Young Buck. Buck breaking is the sexual trauma from How to Make a Slave. When they came with their King James Bible, New York is the capital of London. New York Yankees, them same sex practices that they was doing to their peasants in England, and you let them sell to y'all that the British was God-fearing. I'm gonna take you through the history of the British in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, in the Anglican Church, in the Baptist Church. Then I'm gonna take you through the history of all of those churches. The Anglican Church, which are the Puritans. They told you the pure Britons. I'm gonna show you the pure Britons in Kenya. I'm gonna show you the pure Britons in South Africa. I'm gonna show you the pure Britons. I'm gonna show you the Seventh-day Adventists. I'm gonna show you the Baptists. I'm gonna show you the Methodists. I'm gonna show you all of the British. I'm gonna show you all of their slave trades, and then you tell me if they people of God. God said, "By their fruit ye shall know them." So if they wasn't God's people then, are they God's people now? And if they shed blood at any time, Genesis 9 says, "I will require an accounting for every drop of blood." So the reparations that everybody talks about, we're the only ones who can get reparations for the blood that the Europeans shed on that continent and this and all around the world. We're the only ones. And the way we're going to collect reparations is by separating ourselves and putting back together our in the beginning marriage covenants and courts, which will force God to judge between our righteous marriages and our righteous lifestyles and their abominations. That's what we on, yo. It's that simple. All right. It's that simple. This is a business plan. And let me just say this to you. The royal court that we're talking about, David and Bathsheba put it together. But in 1971, my mom and my dad put our family together. My mom and my dad and Aunt Judy and Uncle Billy got married together. So me and my wife and Craig and his wife, we got married together because of that example. But prior to that, I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna go our freshman year in high school. Craig's older sister, Debbie, got married to Tony. And my mom and Craig's mom and their visions and dreams for these families were so entwined that his mom, put me in the wedding party of my sister Debbie as a freshman. Mom made the statement to my mom and my grandmom and my father and and our families that our families are one. This is my son. She had me in the same tux that her other two sons was in. She put me in the wedding party. And from that day to this, our families have been united. So this is the 27th summer of when Craig and I got married to honor Bev, Frank, Julie, and Billy. And so this year, myself and Kanisha and Craig and his wife, I'm letting all of our wedding parties know Before my grandmother closes her eyes, my mother made a promise to my grandmother. So we are going to do the wedding party. That includes all of our brothers and sisters. And in our wedding party, just like the kings of Europe, they dispersed to the people of the world through their court. We're going to give y'all what they talking about Akon is going to give to Africa in 2030, right now. February 22nd through the 28th, every last one of y'all in the wedding party, you need to bring your banks online. So when we go to the wedding, we're going to make the deposit in your banks to give to the rest of our brothers and sisters around the globe. Remember, this is a 4-season thing. All right, we broke the year up in four 90-day periods. All right, and in each 90-day period, we 25% of the planning phase goes in to distribute. We're gonna make 16 million brand new millionaires in this year alone from our wedding party alone, just to make the statement to the world that we could have been doing this in 1990 if we had to listen to Beverly Webb. That's the statement I'm making. 16 million brand new millionaires, starting with everybody in our wedding party. February 22nd through the 28th, we bring the banks online. All right. So our goal is 1,600 individuals in each 90-day period. 1,600 individuals. To get to 16 million, y'all got to bring y'all banks online. So when y'all receive the deposit, we get our wedding date is May. Then in July, we doing another big joint in preparation for the distribution, December the 1st through the 21st. All right. So all year, the distribution will happen to be able to, on December 1st through the 21st, we're going to have an award ceremony to show the world that we hit our goal. 16 million millionaires. We're going to have a fashion show to showcase that fashion statement to the world. 16 million brand new millionaires. So listen, we're going to give y'all the schedule. It's the 1,600 against the 300. The 300 was how to make a slave. The 1,600 is how to make the divine, renowned supernaturals. How to make the divine, renowned supernaturals. How to break the cycles of a slave. How to procreate the divine, renowned supernaturals. 300 slaves, 1,600 divine, renowned supernaturals. All right. Everybody that comes online, listen, you got to come online to open up the accounts and do everything that we need to do. Yo, it's an $80. It's an $80 love offering. It's an $80 show of gratitude to my queen. My queen shared the same vision that my mom did. And August 19th, when I was on my deathbed, she said, we ain't finished. The business plan ain't finished. When we got married in 2010, I believe it was, we got remarried. Craig wasn't at the altar with us. Mom was still alive, but Craig wasn't at the altar with us. Craig was supposed to be at the altar with us. Craig and Gillespie was supposed to be at the altar with us. So we're going to make that right. And all of our brothers and sisters who wasn't there, all of our brothers and sisters around the country, all of our brothers and sisters who was added before and after that. Each and every one of y'all, we expect to distribute to 1,600. What we saying is everybody in our wedding party, you're responsible for making 1,600 individuals millionaires. Each and every person in our wedding party. To be able to hit the goal of 16 million individuals, we already got the coins. We already done the infrastructure for the past 30 years. All we doing is giving you our shares in the country, in the intramural leagues that my mom created. My mom created the infrastructure. We went to Chicago and we expanded the infrastructure. We've been playing in these intramural leagues and games right alongside the NBA. So, we got the same value, more value, because we got real money. And all we doing is we recruiting our people to join our wedding parties. And just like the British, they go play Wimbledon, or just like the Greeks and all of y'all Romans, y'all go to the Olympics. We're gonna have our own set of games. We're gonna have our own set of games. We're gonna have our own intramural leagues, the league of our own, where we bless our individuals. We're gonna have our own Hall of Fames. We're gonna have our own everything. It begins right now. So every day at 10 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, at 8 o'clock, 9 and 10, 10, 12, 2, we're going to release and make an opportunity for y'all to bring your banks online so that on February 22nd through 28th, we just deposit in the coins for y'all to go out and recruit the Hollywood stars and then distribute, and for them to bring their accounts online. So y'all bringing banks online, and then we're going to bring accounts online, and then we're going to show them how to follow your hollow coin investments in this Michael's Angels investment funds, intramural games. All right, that's the business plan I was telling you about, cousin. I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna show you what it looked like on here, and then we're gonna break it up and chop it up. All right, peace.